property tax increases. The high degree of transparency and involvement of taxpayers leads to fewer tax increases and less uproar over tax rates when they do rise. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember. Council, we have minutes to approve from the July 14th work session and the July 28th policy session. You had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? Mayor. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
And then I think it was July 28th minutes. It had Lamont Woods. I'm thinking it was supposed to be Hampton.
Yeah, it is. Name change.
Yeah, okay. I believe it was July 28th, the policy meeting.
We just need to change the name there from Lamont Woods to Lamont Hampton.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would entertain a motion with those changes.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes stand. We have two public hearings tonight. The first of those public hearings is to receive public comment on the fiscal year 2027 budget enterprise fund transfers to the general fund. Turn the time over to Rich.
Okay, Mayor and Council, the state code requires us to hold a public hearing before adopting a budget that includes transfers from the enterprise funds to the general fund. So the enterprise funds are our utility funds that are fee-based, and our general fund is where most of our tax-supported revenues and expenses take place. So this is moving monies from the enterprise funds to the general fund to support administrative costs such as finance, human resources, legal, IT, management, and other shared services. So these are the transfers from those funds to the general fund. The other transfer is a non-cash transfer. It's an accounting to recognize water that our governmental services are using, like parks and open space and our facilities, that we are not charging ourselves for through utility billing. It's just recognizing that cost. And also required by the law, we will then provide a notice, a third of a page in next month's utility bill showing these transfers. Are there any questions on this? Thank you.
Okay, go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in regards to the intergovernmental transfers? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The other public hearings to receive public comment on the zoning text amendment 2026-0704, a city-initiated zoning text amendment to the downtown form-based code, removing multifamily residential as a permitted type on secondary streets in the urban core commerce UC zone. Tyson, we'll turn that over to you. Maybe you can say that easier than I can.
I'll do my best. Thank you, Mayor and Council members. To provide some background on this request, there was a work session discussion with the City Council discussing an upcoming civic and town center plan where the city is hiring a consultant to do some planning work for this area around City Hall, the civic center and town center area. Also discussed was a potential temporary land use regulation regarding development in the UC zone. Through that discussion, it was also raised to do a potential amendment to remove the multifamily building type as a permitted building type on secondary streets in the UC zone. The intent of the amendment is to preserve opportunities for commercial and mixed-use redevelopment in the surrounding area of City Hall in the UC zone, pending completion of the civic and town center planning process. So The form-based code is the code that's being amended. There are various sections that are being amended. 2.8, which provides the UC zone description, and then also 3.4, which provides development standards for various development types. And then there are also a couple of tables within the form-based code where the tables will need to be amended reflective of the removal of the multifamily building type as a permitted building type in the UC zone. Tying it to the objectives of the general plan, one of the objectives in the Clearfield City General Plan is to continue efforts to transform downtown Clearfield into a vibrant center of activity and gathering spaces. So this proposed amendment is a policy choice in that direction regarding the desired balance of residential and non-residential development in downtown Clearfield, specifically the UC zone. So evaluating the amendment, multifamily as a building type, it can contribute to downtown activity by increasing residents and supporting nearby businesses. This amendment prioritizes mixed-use buildings that may more directly contribute to active storefronts and gathering spaces in a pedestrian-oriented or creating, amenities or commercial places where residents could go to as a destination. To clarify, residential apartments would still be permitted in the UC zone. It would just be on upper stories of a mixed-use building that had commercial uses on the ground floor. The multifamily building type will still be permitted on secondary streets in the UR zone, so it is still permitted in another zone in the downtown Clearfield area. And this is where you can see the zone in question. So the zone that has the pinkish color outlined in white, that's the UC zone. So that's the area that we're talking about specifically for this amendment. It's the area just south of Clearfield City Hall and down even further south to the Lakeside Square development is pretty much the area. Again, in the amendment request, it's removing multifamily building types from secondary streets in the UC zone. So this is an image from the form-based code, which shows the street hierarchy. So the streets are divided into different street types. We've got two main designations, primary streets and secondary streets. The secondary streets you can see indicated with the green color and the gray color. So as far as public comment goes, there was one resident who commented in the Planning Commission public hearing. That same resident also submitted written public comment prior to this public hearing. So our city recorder has directed me to read the public comment into the record. So, and it's from Michael Christensen, Clearfield City resident. City leaders, I come to you regarding Amendment 2026-0704 to be discussed at the 11 August 2026 City Council meeting. The amendment's premise of prioritizing ground floor retail by prohibiting purely residential construction has merit, but misses a key point. Current mixed-use buildings on the west side of State Street show businesses that are surviving, but far short of thriving. Ground floor retail succeeds only after the surrounding area reaches a critical mass of permanent residents within roughly half a mile. No part of Clearfield has reached that critical mass. There are simply not enough residences inside any walkable radius that can be drawn on our city map. Ground floor mixed-use retail works in places like New York, Chicago, or even Salt Lake City because many hundreds and occasionally thousands of potential customers live in an elevator ride plus a short walk away. That level is generally not achievable with the 3 or 4 story construction of most mixed-use corridors in Clearfield. Mixed-use development can be vertical, ground floor retail under residences, horizontal, tall apartments concentrated around shopping or offices, or a combination. Clearfield's existing structures are neither tall enough, tightly spaced enough, nor sufficiently varied. One practical test of critical mass is whether building owners must discount their retail square footage compared to a nearby strip mall to fill vacancies. If commercial rents in the mixed-use building remain comparable to a strip mall, and business owners still prefer the mixed-use location instead of procuring space in a nearby strip mall, the market is likely telling us that critical mass has been achieved or exceeded. The amendment before you is an obstruction to reaching the critical mass necessary to sustain our current business operators, not a catalyst for driving mixed-use success. Existing mixed-use buildings across the street need far more local customers, and residential buildings are built faster and cheaper because they are far less complex than mixed-use construction. If the council adopts the amendment blocking purely residential uses in the UC zone, take the logical step simultaneously by also requiring that all new non-municipal buildings in the zone be at least 5 stories tall, with hopes that many will propose 7-story buildings to maximize land utility while avoiding the onerous IBC regulations of 8+ story residential buildings. Force developers bringing in ground floor retail to bring massive, not trivial numbers of customers alongside that retail. I encourage the council to either, 1, reject the amendment entirely so more residents can be added more quickly, or 2, modify it to require all non-municipal redevelopment in the area to be at least 5 stories minimum. Michael Christensen. With the Planning Commission, after hearing public comment, the Planning Commission voted to forward a recommendation of approval of the amendment request to the City Council. So the City Council alternatives for action this evening would be to approve, deny, or potentially table the request.
Okay, thank you, Tyson. Go ahead and open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in regards to our zoning text amendment?
I'm Michael Christensen. I'll be brief because my email wasn't. I do a lot of technical presentations, so I don't write like I speak. I'll keep that in mind next time and use many fewer words for that. The only thing I would add to that is on option 3. The idea about requiring a minimum elevation for mixed-use buildings was not something I presented to the Planning Commission. That idea didn't come to me until after the meeting. So it might be something on option 3 you might table this back to the Planning Commission to consider whether a minimum elevation should be applied to the ordinance before considering passage of it, as they didn't have that in their mind when they voted on this as it's coming to you. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, well, that brings us to our open comment period. We do have budget discussions tonight and others. This would be, if you're here for those, this would be the only time to speak to those. The others are not public hearings. But I do have 2 forms tonight for public comment. Christy Zabrowski, and we'll go ahead and invite you up here.
Thanks. As I'm looking around, I've had several council members at my home over the last many years. I've been living here for almost 45 years. I have a problem with code enforcement. I realize that they're busy and can't come to the house every 2 weeks to make sure somebody's following along with the code. But what else do us residents do when they're not following the code? Years ago, there was a gentleman on the code enforcement named Doug Carr. And he was at my house, and same issue, same neighbors, and he was a little upset about having to keep dealing with it. So when he backed out of my driveway, he almost hit my neighbors because he didn't see the kids. Clearfield City, where I live, is not a cul-de-sac. Well, it depends. Sometimes it's a cul-de-sac and sometimes it's a through street, depending on what weather we have. If we got a lot of snow, I am a cul-de-sac. So my car can be where the curb is, the tires, and all the way, we got a big long truck. I'm still where they've just shoveled me in. I've had code enforcement come out. We have etchings on our fence that shows exactly what the neighbors are having to do. Again, they won't do anything until Clearfield City comes out. And I believe code enforcement is a little bit tired of dealing with this same issue as I've had you out. I've talked with you on the phone about the same issue. They're served. They're told they have to do something. And then just wait a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, where they have some trees, within 2 weeks, they're already above where they're supposed to be. Code enforcement, Ben and Juan, have both come out to the house and measured it, and we've marked it on the fence where they have to trim back. I don't want to be responsible for the death of a child because we can't see. We back into our driveway to do that. This is only going to get worse with the construction you guys are doing. Our streets are all going to be torn up with all of this stuff. I know they finally made the guy move his truck into his driveway. He'll be gone and his driveway's empty. And the guy across the street is a really good man. He's very involved with his children. But he couldn't go out and play basketball with them because the guy always parked his truck there. I do know that you guys finally took care of that, thanks. And there's a bunch of equipment in front of his house, so he can't park there anyway. But where it is a safe walking route for South Clearfield students, there's only a sidewalk on that one side. So it comes in, and then it goes like that. Well, if he parks his truck there or has anything when he trims, as Councilman Thompson seen, they'll trim it, and then they leave it all there. They never plowed that sidewalk. So at some point, you guys are going to have to address, these neighbors are going to have to take care of some of this stuff. Right now, school's going to be starting, so code enforcement or somebody from the city needs to be on those sidewalks going to the school that are covered in puncture weeds. Again, it's a safe walking route that goes by my house. What do we do? If he parks there, the kids go in the street and you can't see him. I don't want to be responsible for the death of a kid. And how do code enforcement comes out, serves them. This was a good one. Clearfield has served them several times for putting their vehicles and stuff on the grass. Okay, well, code enforcement and the city closes down at 5 o'clock, and you don't come on the weekends. So he can park there every weekend because you're not going to do anything about it then. So I just appreciate it if Clearfield City would start helping with this code enforcement. Be a little stronger. You've got a house over there with all the fires we got right now. You got a house above the credit union, a couple streets over. I would say it's definitely 2.5 feet tall. And it's all bed. One kid does one stupid. Somebody throws a cigarette butt out. It's going to go up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Christy. And I understand you are working with staff on that now, so I'll let staff continue to drive that with you.
Well, I hope so, because this is only like 7 years or more. I leave town, and they poison my fence. It's wild farming. 142 feet I have to keep cleaning up, because I leave town, and they spray it with Roundup.
Thank you. And then our other comment is Michael Christensen.
I'll be brief again. You know me as the housing guy. But when I was 11 years old, I got my mother involved in water and sewer, and she's still going at it on a board in Sandy 35 years later. So I have a soft spot for liquids as well. So in the pre-meeting, we were talking about the Maybe Pond, filling that up with the well being replaced or repaired on 200 South. I was reminded of an experience I had with a teenage child some years ago. After taking 35-minute showers for about 4 weeks in a row, I confronted him and said, water's expensive. He looked at me and said, water's cheap. And in a moment of inspiration, I looked at him and said, no. Cold water is cheap. Hot water is expensive. Frozen water is expensive because water doesn't like to change temperature. But that same principle applies to the Maybe Pond well that was just spoken of in the room. Why are we digging a well to take precious fresh water in a desert and pour it on the ground when there is an alternative to take at least some of that pressure off with water from the Weber Davis and use secondary water to fill that? So I encourage the council to consider not just the cheap solution of pouring precious, expensive water on the ground because it's easier to get at, but put some consideration and thought into only buying one pump and putting pressure on yourselves to get something set up with Davis Weber to bring in some of that secondary water. Because fresh water, culinary water from the ground is far too precious in this desert to pick it up and pour it on the ground.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments that I did not have forms for tonight? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move forward. Our next item on the agenda is item number 4, presentation and discussion of the proposed property tax impact schedule. Turn the time over to J.J. Allen. We're going to have Rich take that one. Okay, I thought you were going to take that one.
I'll tag team a little bit.
Okay.
Mayor, Council, I would like to present I don't know if they're the next 3 items, but the 3 items that are mine, starting with the budget, and then, because I think it all builds to the property tax schedule, if that's okay. So, all right. Let's see here. Why can't I see? Dang it. Okay, just a second. I want to see my notes. Okay, this is it. It is the last meeting on the fiscal 27 budget. I'm pleased to present this. It's our comprehensive financial plan that reflects our commitment to fiscal responsibility, transparency, and delivering exceptional municipal services. But before we take action and adopt this 27 budget, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the process that got us here. There has been 11 meetings, public meetings, including tonight. Green here are work sessions, purple public hearings, blue council meetings. It's probably best to lump these in 3 phases. The first is building the foundation, where we establish priorities, looked at our needs. We went through staffing, compensation, capital, revenues, operations, utility fund sustainability, and our rates and our debt. And then by April, we were starting to make the hard decisions, narrowing it down, because we have limited resources and all of our departments have a lot of requests, capital requests, operational requests, and we can't do it all. So we did reduce or defer projects in about 1.8 million. And even before that, before the council even saw anything, there were many things that didn't even make it into the draft budget. And then after the third phase was just publicly vetting this budget, adopting the tentative budget, establishing our property tax impact schedule, announcing our proposed property tax rates, and adopting the interim budget, and now tonight, the final budget. So the budget before you is not new. It's been reviewed, debated, reduced, and heard in public for over half a year. So just wanted to show that to you. Is there any questions or comments regarding that? Okay. As an overview for the budget, to give scale and just how many dollars we're talking about, our governmental funds, which are tax-supported funds, so not our utility funds, 33 million in revenues or transfers, and 40 million in expenditures, 11.5 of which is capital projects. You can see we are reducing cash, but that is intentional. We're using monies built up from prior years to pay for these one-time expenses. So one-time sources are paying for one-time expenses. And the operational budget is balanced, and I'll show that in a little bit. And then looking at our utility funds, 18 million in revenues, 17.5 in capital expenditures, and again, spending now cash, but that is intentional for projects, one-time projects. If you add those together, the total revenues, 50 million in revenues. If you add the total expenses together, a $70 million budget. So where does the money go? This is the most common question. This is the general fund. So the general fund is supported by our main sources of revenue for these expenses: the sales tax, energy tax, our aquatic and fitness center fees, and property tax. Sales and energy being much higher than those other two. So the two important takeaways from this slide is that first, it's a service budget. The blue is operational expenses, and most of it is operations and people providing daily services. And then it also shows our priorities. Public safety is prioritized at the top with over 8.7 million in expenditures. And we could go into all the services provided by each of these functions. This is how the accounting language is. It's not the language we use necessarily, but this is how accounting splits these services up. Streets, that's half maintenance, which includes street treatment, and then the green is full reconstruction of streets. Okay, so major changes since 26. Sales and energy tax has been tapering off. Energy tax has actually gone down, so the net effect, 350,000. The increase in property tax, which we will talk about in the tax rate tonight, and the property tax impact schedule. There is an increase in the utility rate starting in January of 27 in water, sewer, and storm, about $2.55 per month on average. And then green waste, the cost per CAM per month just went up this July, 85 cents per month. Other changes from 27 to 26, we have a new assistant aquatic fitness center that was offset with reductions in other staffing and operations. 2 new public works dedicated to pipe cleaning that was offset by not contracting that out. We reduced the dispatch contract with Layton, which helped a lot, and emergency planning was moved to the North Davis Fire District. Projects. In water, sewer, storm, we've added 4.3 million in new allocations. The monies to the left are what is the total from prior years, and so the bold is just new allocations. Notable in parks was the Bicentennial Park renovation, the Jazz basketball court. And again, we've talked about deferring or limiting 1.8 million of capital requests that just didn't make the budget. So the budget it supports the end goal of security with 63 days of operating expense. And because the general fund's ongoing revenues exceed its ongoing expenses, considered financially stable. These are all the slides. This gives an overview of the budget, a very large overview. We have the more detailed budget on our website. For anyone that wants to see that. And again, I will say that the departments, their staff, mayor and council put a lot of time, a lot of meetings, as you see, a lot of things happening behind the scenes of figuring out how to do this. So it's a lot of work. The revenues expenses were scrutinized, fees and rates were reviewed for sustainability, and every step happened in public meetings. So staff recommends the adoption of this budget that reflects all of that work. I do want to go into the rate and the property tax impact schedule. Is there any questions on the budget or comments there?
Other than huge thank you, because your timeline on there shows how long this has taken and the amount of work that goes into planning a budget, and it's not easy, especially when you're having to trim out. We trimmed 1.8 million. Could have.
Yep.
That's a lot of things we can't do, and that we'd love to do.
Right. Agreed. Is there anything else? Sorry, I don't know if I...
No, it's all you.
Okay. So we presented this in a public hearing last Tuesday, our proposed rate above the certified tax rate. So the county's rate came in, the property values came 1% higher than the certified tax rate. So the the certified tax rate adjusts downward to give the cities the same revenue as last year. So that doesn't help us with any inflation or other demands on services. It's built to just give the same revenue as the prior year, excluding growth. So the city is proposing a tax rate of 0.001253. It's expected to generate 6.59% more property tax revenue than the certified tax rate. So you can see last year's 12818, the certified tax rate went down to 1176, and we're proposing to move it to 1253. The impact to the city for new growth is $148,000, and then for the increased rate from the certified rate is $233,106. And the impact to the average resident valued at $510,000, their portion of the property tax bill is approximately $21.60 per year, bringing the total cost for city services from their property tax of $351.47. Make sure. So yes, this rate provides funding for key needs identified during the budget process and our evolving service demands. During that process, we identified 5 budget priorities totaling the amount of the increase and communicated these items would be eliminated if the proposed property tax rate increase was not approved. And that is summarized in the property tax impact schedule, which we have now, I can't remember if this will be the 4th time or the 5th time we've showed this in a public meeting. These are available at this meeting as well, in the back here and online. I'm not sure if we, I'm gonna give this to JJ.
I'll take it. Absolutely. Yeah, this is where we've usually passed the baton so that I can just review these different items that we've placed on the property tax impact schedule with a lot of input from the City Council. This is really your property tax impact schedule as you've given guidance as far as what you've indicated the additional property tax should go toward. So with that $233,106, this is what essentially we're saying to the public: if we don't increase the property tax as is proposed, then these are the things that we will not do. None of them are for new things or service level increases or expansions. If we don't increase the property tax, then these are the items that would be reductions in level of service. So to summarize, $25,000 from the facilities budget in community services, that would be for contracted services for very routine things and that are needed for our various facilities. In the police department, $10,000 in patrol and investigations for equipment acquisition and replacement. In the streets budget in public works, $60,000 for various maintenance activities like striping, streetlight maintenance, pothole repair, and so on. In the parks budget in community services, $121,606. $75,000 of that is a slope mower, much more safe and efficient and practical in terms of what our needs are. And the remainder of that is grounds maintenance, supplies, materials and supplies for grounds maintenance. And lastly, $16,500 from the communications budget in administration. That would be to renew the texting service that we are launching now. That is a way to engage with the community and receive their feedback and take their work orders and things like that. So that's a summary of what we said we needed and how the justification for the property tax increase. And according to statute, we call it the property tax impact schedule. Are there any questions about property tax impact schedule or about the tax rate or the budget at all?
Just for sake of clarity, could you go into kind of how we went through this process last year and how that impacts what we're going through this year as it results in the rate and the total value?
Thank you, Councilmember. And that is touched on here in the paragraph up above the table that you see on the screen here. So a year ago, the City Council did go through the process to increase the property tax, and that increase a year ago would have been on the average $19 per home for the average home in Clearfield. That was to generate about $190,000 of new property tax, and we didn't know until it was too late that the law had slightly changed, removing any discretion for the tax commission, the Utah State Tax Commission. So where in previous years they were able to look at a taxing entity with some discretion as to, well, did they meet the law in terms of going through the correct process to raise the property tax. In this case, it was to the letter, very strict, with no leeway whatsoever. And unfortunately, the tax increase that was approved by the City Council was rejected by the State Tax Commission. So it was not implemented. And this time around, the increase of $233, so that's just $43,000-ish more than the $190 a year ago. And on the average household, instead of about $19 for the year, this time around is $21.60. So just a couple dollars more annually per the average household in Clearfield. So we're recovering most of what this council would be doing tonight in adopting this tax increase would be to recover what was intended to be done a year ago.
And I'd note that one of those things that had to be done last year that we missed, which many cities missed last year, was having a slide up during our public hearing showing every taxing entity within the county and what they were doing with their taxes, which really has no bearing on what we're doing with ours, but it had to be up there, and it wasn't provided by the county. So the county's failure to provide us with a slide ultimately cost us that. And you should note that, that's not cuts that we had to do last year. We'd already approved a budget based on that income coming in. So that dips into reserves. And this isn't backfilling the reserves. It means after last year, our reserves are $180,000 short of what they should have been. So we cut everything that we could to make up for that, but it still put us in a hole. So,
yeah, I appreciate that context, because just to carry the thought train forward, just thank you to staff for these 6-month prolonged, really deliberate process of us looking at what we need to do to get this in a presentable state, and that we're making informed decisions that are, in good interest of the public, and where we're fulfilling our fiduciary duty, but also we have to, as a city, show up and provide these necessary services. Like, snow has to get plowed when it exists, potholes have to get paved, public safety has to be able to perform their duties, and in order for us to do that, we are making really prescriptive decisions on, okay, what can we delay to the next year, and trying to work within our means. And unfortunately, that because of that context, this year requires that we go through this process. And I just am really appreciative, because we cannot do this on our own. And we definitely can't show up for our residents without a balanced and consistent budget process.
And I hope and pray that we have to plow time and time and time again this year. No, I really don't. I hope that it snows in the mountains because I don't have to shovel rain, and I'm okay with the rain. So. Okay, well, council, with that presentation, I would entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2026-R-20, setting the city's 2026 property tax rate at .001253.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 2026-R-20, setting the city's 2026 property tax rate at 0.001253 and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Worth?
Aye.
Councilmember Ratchford?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
That is unanimous. That moves us on to item number 6, yes, which is to consider approval of ordinance 2026-11, adopting the fiscal year 2027 final budget. Council, any further questions on the budget?
No.
Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2026-11, adopting the fiscal year budget 2027 final budget, and authorize your signature on any necessary documents. Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Rashford?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Worth?
Aye.
That is unanimous. I failed to excuse Councilmember Peterson tonight. I keep looking down my list, so we will excuse Councilmember Peterson. She wasn't able to be with us this evening. Item number 7 is to consider approval of ordinance 2026-12, amending the downtown form-based code to remove multifamily residential as permitted building type on secondary streets within the urban core commerce zone. A couple of comments. Our rents downtown are equal to our strip malls. So, and they're constant, and actually the businesses, while you said weren't thriving, they're actually doing very well. With the exception of one on the corner who has tried to, he's had every setback in the world in his life, and hopefully eventually he'll come out of that. But the others are doing well. So we do have a minimum in our form-based code. It's 4 stories. Residential's 4 stories. We don't allow 3 stories anymore. So residential's a minimum of 4. I can tell you the building design, everyone has built to 4 for financial reasons, because 4 stories of sticks are easy and the cost is, stays where it is. You start going over 4 stories, there's a delta there that a lot don't want to overcome. You start hitting 6 stories, and now you start having to go and steel, and that's a challenge. I will tell you that the proposed and approved lakeside development is 5 over concrete, so it's 5 over podium. That entire bottom floor is 26,000 square feet of commercial, and then 5 stories above it. So we're heading in the right direction, and they're confident on their end, or they wouldn't be able to get their financing as far as keeping that retail space full. And we've already worked on, we have a couple of them already in the works to be there to anchor those 2 ends of the building. So we're doing well. At least we're moving in the right direction. That should hopefully create a vibrant downtown. Our biggest concern is that as we redevelop, these secondary streets are challenging. As you go through Clearfield Town Center, or Town Square, next door, there's a street. I mean, this is a retail center that needs some redevelopment. It's being purchased by a new group who would then at some point down the future redevelop the site, and there is a street that goes right down the middle of it. Right now, you see it as the entrance to the development. Long term on our plan, that is the street that goes down and connects to 200 South. Concern is building solid residential on those sides and not putting commercial as it should be, and to take a commercial development and replace it with just housing would be a lot. And so that's the impetus in this change, is to make sure that we have a balanced development as we do this, as we move forward.
Yeah, and Michael, I appreciated your email last night. I found it very thoughtful. For me, just clarifying that we are not excluding residential in the UC zone, I think is important, and that Lakeside Square has 296 units currently entitled, so there's going to be some residential going in there as soon as they break ground on that. But, I mean, for me, in that particular zone, if redevelopment were to occur, preserving that commercial tax base and that commercial opportunity, I think, is a valuable consideration that I think we really want to maintain. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're not in the business of setting the market or constructing any of these projects, only creating the tools to enable it, if that exists.
And creating place. And again, I don't want to tear down. Last thing I ever want to see happen in the city is to tear down a Clearfield Town Square or a Lakeside Square and replace it entirely with housing and not bring back that commercial component that's always been there. What instead I want to see is a walkable district that creates that call it vibe downtown and creates that walkable area, which, you know, they've designed around the pond, and you know, we'll work on the other end and getting the water to the pond from a different source, but so that there's always water in the pond. Yep. But, we do appreciate that too. So council, I would entertain a motion to approve the ordinance 2026-12, amending the downtown form-based code.
I move to approve ordinance 2026-12, amending the downtown form-based code to remove multifamily residential as permitted building type on secondary streets within the urban core commercial zone, and authorize the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Worth?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Before I say my vote, I'll just say that I do have concerns like on just some of these secondary streets that allow just a mixed use, because I mean, I understand we're coming from an angle like technically we're banning pure residential, but in my view, we're not really banning residential because I mean, it's just going to go be mixed use, which is still a residential component, even if it has commercial at the bottom. I'd like to see more, especially on secondary streets, more pure commercial opportunities. It's just my brain still looks at the heart of city center and like I have nightmares. So I would have liked to see more commercial, so that's why my vote's going to be nay, mainly because of the fact that I think that there just needs to be more of that like pure consideration, but that's all. But I'm not saying that some of this discussion isn't a good idea or a real idea. It's just, I guess I'm just being a little bit picky on what I'd like to see.
Okay. Councilmember Redford?
Aye.
Okay. That passes in at 3-1. And brings us to item number 8, which is consider approval of resolution 2026-R21, approving amendments to the City Council Rules of Order. Council, we reviewed these a couple of weeks ago, went over just, most of them are minor changes to our Rules of Order. Are there any questions or concerns as they were sent out? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve those.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-R-21, approving amendments to the City Council Rule of Order and procedures, and authorizing the mayor's signature to any necessary documents.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Rashford?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
Councilmember Worth?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Okay, and then number 9 is to consider approval of Resolution 2026-R-22, approving the amendments to the Planning Commission bylaws. Any concerns on those? Just again, clean up really from, which we need to do every once in a while. Okay, entertain a motion.
Your Honor, I would move to approve Resolution 2026-R-22, approving amendments to the Planning Commission bylaws, and authorize your signature to any necessary documents.
And I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. And Councilmember Worth?
Aye.
Councilmember Ratchford?
Aye.
Councilmember King?
Aye.
Councilmember Thompson?
Aye.
That is unanimous. That moves us on to our communication items. Thanks for allowing me to be out of town last week working on housing in D.C. We really focused on what's next with the 21st Century Road to Housing Act having passed. We now turn our focus to getting cities prepared to implement everything that's in that bill, which is about 52 different individual bills that were basically combined into one massive bill. A lot coming through it, and a lot that we need to be prepared for, and that we'll certainly be addressing over the next while. Second, had a really cool opportunity this past Sunday to jump into a UTA truck that rides the rails and ride the rail with UTA's operations managers from here to Ogden, and to look at the difference. It's really amazing to sit in the middle of the tracks and look at UTA's side and what they do to maintain theirs, and to look at the other side of Union Pacific's and what they do not do to maintain theirs. It is illegal for a resident to climb onto Union Pacific's property, to mow down the weeds in there. That is problematic because, unfortunately, Union Pacific does not do that. We looked at the different types of trains and potential for fire, and while UTA does a great job, they've actually got a truck that drives down that drops an arm down and goes out 20 feet from center of their tracks and mows everything down and clears that down, and again, nothing on the other side. But all of UTA's trains run on disc brakes, so they don't spark. They're run just like your car. That is a significant difference from the other side of the tracks. And you can see, if you ever set out at night and a Union Pacific train passes, sparks as they make turns, and it's not unusual. And it's very evident when you look at the fires that took place over the last month, the difference in how they started and where they started, and how you can see where they jumped sides. And there's been a lot of, as you read the media and you read public comments on social media, comments about UTA and their involvement in this. In fact, somebody blamed UTA for the fire in Washington Terrace. I want to say South Weber, but Washington Terrace. Well, UTA's train doesn't even go there. That they got blamed somehow for that fire as well. UTA is doing an amazing job of keeping their stuff taken care of and ensuring that these things don't happen. So I wanted to give them a shout out for, one, inviting us out. I never got to ride on the train. I mean, I've ridden the train, but I've never ridden on a truck in the middle of the rails. That was pretty cool. And they've got a truck that actually cost them about $1 million. It's an F-250 that drives the track and measures everything. It knows exactly what's right or wrong on every inch of their track by driving on it. And so they're able to prevent things before they happen. So kudos to UTA for inviting us, myself and a couple other mayors, out to see those potential issues. And there still are. If you live along the tracks, be aware there's still potential issues. I'd be dragging a hose over my backyard on a regular basis and watering down the brush that's on that side. There's some stuff back there. Back to school is coming up here quickly, so those of you who volunteered to be over to South Clearfield Elementary, thank you. Or not South Clearfield, Antelope Elementary. Go visit South Clearfield too, and every other elementary school. Welcome the kids back. But thank you for doing that. We have a ribbon cutting Thursday at 5 o'clock at Clearfield High for the new CTC building. Hallelujah. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm excited to be able to be there to cut the ribbon and get that thing open.
Feels like just yesterday I was at the groundbreaking. That's
I know it, right? And I appreciate that because I wasn't able to be there for the groundbreaking, but I will be there for the ribbon cutting. So, and then thanks to staff and to Steve Hyatt when we talk about him being worth what we have to pay him as a lobbyist. We've had to tap into him to work on the Opportunity Zone piece and Opportunity Zone 2.0. We have 2 of them in Clearfield Opportunity Zones. With the big beautiful bill that required a reduction in Opportunity Zones, about 25% and 30% have to go rural now. That puts ours at R2 at risk, which could hamper development both at Clearfield Station and at Lakeside and just about everywhere in between those two. And so we're putting up a pretty good fight with the governor's office to make that happen. And Steve Hyatt has worked his tail off to make sure the governor's office and GOED are informed and understand what we're looking for. And he produced us a report today for them that was a piece of art compared to what I would have written. So yeah, kudos to him, and we appreciate his work, so. Thank you. Turn, see, Councilmember, let's go down this, I might read my notes. Councilmember Worth.
Do you need an app?
Councilmember Peterson down there, sorry.
I don't have any updates. I just want to remind everybody the bubble party on the bridge is this Saturday at noon.
Yes.
I hope to see you all there. That's all I've got.
Bring your bubbles.
You know it.
The North Davis Fire District approved their budget the last month, and with no increases, they stayed with the rate. The other thing is the salute picnic at the base. We had, oh gosh, how many people? 1,500?
More than that.
Like 2,500?
About 2,500 airmen and
So
families that
much.
deserve.
It was well received. There's 5 new commanders, I believe, so this is one of the bigger turns that happen, and they are excited to get with the community to see what you guys need and where they can help. They are very motivated to make sure that we bridge that connection point, so I look forward to bringing you tons more where we can do things together. That's all I have.
That was a great event. I mean, always is, but
This was a good one.
this was awesome. Councilmember King.
I just wanted to mention, I got to work with North Davis Communities That Care and Blue Star Families to put together a service member picnic, which included food distribution. I want to thank JJ and our staff for collecting food at City Hall and also the Aquatic Center. At the picnic, they had community, all the kids got books. Service members were able to get food and groceries and do yard games and have a dinner with Blue Star and Communities That Care. Research shows that 30% of military families cannot afford to eat a balanced meal, and 33% of Utah military families are concerned about their youth and well-being due to lack of social and community connections. So I think that was really important. I was so happy to be a part of that, and thank you for staff for being a part of that as well.
Thank you. Councilmember Thompson.
All I have to report is that there has been, and even though she's not here tonight, I have to thank Jasmine Reyes. She's done a lot of incredible work at Clearfield Job Corps. She has started something called Food and Fellowship, something that I kind of like helped her name. But in the Food and Fellowship, we're taking Job Corps students who normally have had issues. Actually, I'll be maybe stepping out for part of the retreat on Friday and going to MTC, where they've had issues kind of getting their religious rights recognized to leave center to go to church and things of that nature. And so in that work, we've gotten 12 students so far, and it's supposedly growing, where they go to Nations for Christ here actually in Clearfield. And outside of that, they'll get food distribution and things of that nature. And we just make sure to see that their well-being is well taken care of, that they understand their transitional opportunities, and then on top of all that, that any difficulties that they're having on center, that because they're going to church, that they know they have a community around them. From a broader sense, though, regardless of religion, I want to make sure that all students are able to thoughtfully be able to go to their mosque or their church or synagogue, whatever their religion is, to be able to have a good experience while here at Clearfield Job Corps. So, like I said, I just wanted to thank Jasmine Reyes for that work. Students' lives are being changed, and that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Staff reports. City Manager, JJ.
Yeah, I wanted to add my thank yous for Rich and Lee and everybody involved in the budget process this year in particular with the changes in the law. Nancy was a lot more involved in tracking, make sure we had everything done. And you're all familiar because you got to see it, how involved that whole process is. And I think the same comment could go towards so many of the different things that we do, if it's, zero tolerance, traffic enforcement, or Chandra launching a new application, texting app, all these things, they just require a lot of effort. And so that's really what we're acknowledging, not necessarily the culmination, that's great, but all the work that goes into it, we really appreciate. And to show our appreciation, I guess my next item was the Employee Appreciation Carnival. I sent out an email to you to RSVP. Hopefully you can attend that. If you haven't RSVP'd already, please do so. That is planned for September 19th. We have our retreat with the city council this coming Friday, so please take note of the homework I gave you and come prepared with your thoughts, right? That'll make that exercise so much more productive if we all come prepared with items to share. And I was going to mention the bubble party. Dakota beat me to that, and I don't know if Chandra wants to add anything else. She can if she wants. But, we've also got the National Night Out, so maybe Chief Bennett will want to talk about that. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Nancy?
It's working now. Just our schedule. We do not have a city council meeting next Tuesday, but we will be back the following week for sure in work session. We're still looking to see what builds for the policy session. So then we are scheduled on September 8th for work and policy again.
Okay. Any other staff reports? Chief?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, just a reminder, our National Night Out is August 27th at Steed Park from 6 to 8 o'clock, and we'd love to see you all there. We've got a lot of our resources coming out. Davis Behavioral Health, Safe Harbor, Davis County Health Department, a variety of resources for our community. And it's a great chance for us to interact with them, and everybody can come and have a free hot dog. And this year, too, we are doing our Field a Cruiser again for back-to-school supplies for all of the schools in Clearfield City. The cruiser will be at the big back-to-school event that's next week. They have the back-to-school event for all of the schools in Clearfield City at one location at Fisher Park. That is next week. So the car will be there, and it will be at the Night Out Against Crime, too. And we'll give all those supplies to the schools here in Clearfield City. So look forward to those events.
Fantastic. Chandra, do you need to say anything, or we got it? Okay. Any other staff reports? Okay. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Stand adjourned.